have the honor to introduce Raghu as our first distinguished speaker for the Inspire Summit. Raghu is the co-founder and chief product officer at Enphase Energy. He has more than 25 years of experience in the clean energy and high-tech industries and has been at the forefront of developing Enphase's leading integrated energy system with solar generation, storage, monitoring, and control. During Raghu's speech, if you have any questions, as mentioned before, please type it in that Q&A window. Janice, our moderator, later will select a few questions and ask Raghu in the Q&A section, and Raghu will answer them. He can also choose to directly type answers to some of your questions in the chat box after the speech. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our conference again. I hope you will enjoy the full program ahead and the virtual gathering that we have prepared for you. Now, let's welcome Raghu.
Thank you, Summer. I'm inspired. I'm so happy to be here, just listening to you guys to you speak. It's amazing. And thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you to the entire EIN team to invite me to speak at this summit. You know, it goes without saying that it's a really opportune time for a conference such as this. You know, as you all pointed out, we really are living in challenging times, right? If you look at the hurricanes, the flooding, the fires in California. You know, I live in California. I live in the heart of Silicon Valley, the birthplace of Google, Apple, arguably one of the greatest technological centers in the world. And here we were just last week ready to evacuate because the fires were only a few miles away. This is very real. We are all experiencing this. We have now had multiple weeks of really bad air quality. It was so bad, I think it was last week, that we had to drive with our lights on in the middle of the day. You know, we really have messed things up a lot. And every day we are hearing about 100-year weather events. These are crazy times. And I really believe that we humans are the cause of it. And so, you know, as responsible people, we broke it, we need to fix it. And I take that very seriously, and I take that very personally. We broke it. We need to fix it. We are responsible for fixing it. And so how does it, you know, impact our lives in a more direct and in an ongoing way, right? The most vulnerable infrastructure element in my mind is our aging utility grid. It usually gets hit the hardest when an unprecedented weather event takes place. And in fact, it's also the cause of some of our problems, like some of the fires that we have seen in California. The good news is that we have solutions to all of this. You know, being a technologist, you know, we are always thinking about finding solutions to problems. There's always a better way to do things. And, you know, it's what I believe keeps the innovation clock ticking, right? So before I jump into some details, let me share some background about Enphase and myself. So we started Enphase back in late 2005. We were the proverbial two guys and a dog in my partner's basement, doodling on a whiteboard about our next startup idea. And this was his sixth startup. My partner's name is Martin Fornage, and my fifth startup. And my track record goes something like this. Bombed the first one, did well on the second, bombed the third, bombed the fourth, did fine with Enphase. You know, probably very typical of Silicon Valley folks, right? It's part of the course. As they say, if you accept the fact that you will fail, it frees you up to succeed. Most people don't like to take risks. Why would you? You know, it's not normal. So we were new to the industry, and so we went out there. As you can imagine, we had ideas, and we said, hey, let's, you know, we're brand new to solar. So we said, why don't we go share some of our ideas with the industry veterans? And to our surprise, what we kept hearing was, forget it. It's been tried before. It's not going to work. Go away. And so here's a little secret. Never, ever tell an entrepreneur that it's not going to work. because that's when you know you're on the right track. You're going to crack, if you crack the code, you're going to solve it. So at that time, most of the venture investing, this was back in 2006 timeframe, most of the venture investing was going into solar panels. Billions of dollars were being invested into materials and manufacturing technologies, etc. And no one was paying attention to inverters. We looked at these devices and thought, you know, as all entrepreneurs do, there's a better way to do power conversion. You know, moving away from centralized conversion of string inverters to fully distributed conversion using microinverters, right? And there was a very strong basis for that thinking. And the thinking is that distributed architectures always win in the long run. And they win due to cost, reliability, and performance reasons. There are, there are numerous examples of this: mainframes to PCs, data centers with thousands replicable blade servers, smartphones, etc. In network parlance, what it is that more and more intelligence gets pushed deeper and deeper into the network. Endpoints make autonomous decisions, fail safe. We knew we were on the right side of history when we thought about solving the power management problem in a solar system using microinverters. But we had a much bigger vision at that, in that we really never named the company Enphase Solar for a reason. We knew this was not just a solar problem we were going to solve. We at that time had a belief that we were going to solve the energy problem. And I think we did the right thing. When I look back on hindsight, we did absolutely right thing there. Again, being Silicon Valley guys, we also decided that we would use semiconductors to solve the power conversion problem. We actually took it a step further and we embedded communications technology into every microinverter, enabling us to communicate with it bidirectionally from our cloud. We were IoT before the word became famous. We created what we call as a software-defined inverter. By the way, we made software-defined devices before that word became very famous. So just some metrics: we have now shipped more than 25 million, very closer to 27 million of these devices, and they've been installed in 1.2 million homes worldwide. We have since invented new power conversion techniques that we also use in energy storage. So here's one thing that we have solved, which I'm particularly proud of. Is, one of the fundamental limitation of solar, that it's grid tied. This means that the solar system will stop operating if the grid fails, even if there is sufficient irradiance. A beautiful sunny day, you have solar, but if the grid is down, your solar system is a boat anchor. It's not going to convert any power. That's just how grid-tied systems operate. And this problem became particularly significant in Puerto Rico when the big hurricane struck. There were about 30,000 solar systems in Puerto Rico. And even though the sun was shining, they were not operating because the grid was down. We have now invented a new technology that allows the solar system to convert by itself without needing any energy storage, to convert all the available irradiance into energy. Of course, it'll only work during the day, but I personally believe that the days of grid-tied solar is over. Needed to be over a while back, it's over. We call this energy independence. And like I said, I'm very proud of the team to have cracked the code on this one. This was a hard one to solve. And it's been an incredibly hard journey as a company, right? Big highs and deep lows. And as Steve Jobs once said, normal people would never start a company or join a startup because of how hard it is. It's not rational. But if you have an undying belief in your idea, your mission, you're bound to succeed. Some people thrive on this. If you want to make a mark in this world, that's what it's going to take. So where am I going with all this, right? I think really we have to solve two problems. The first one is the climate change problem with renewables. And the second problem is we have to address this aging grid problem. And I think interestingly that both related. So a thought crossed my mind one day. I said, if Thomas Edison walked down the street today in Fremont, California, which is where Enphase is, and looked at the electrical infrastructure it would all look very familiar. He would recognize the GE meters. He probably worked on them. Utility poles, the wires, the utility transformers, and power aggregation at the substation. And I'm thinking, wow, clearly there needs to be disruption to this ancient technology. Homeowners today are dependent on the grid, and it's failing them in multiple respects. The cost of electricity is rising, resiliency is poor, safety is compromised, and it's not clean. The fundamental reason, in my view, is that because of its, the architecture is very antiquated. It's what I call a hub and spoke architecture. The central generation plant is kind of the center, the transmission distribution lines form the spoke, and the homes are kind of the endpoints. Central power plants and transmission lines are becoming much more expensive to maintain. They're less reliable, and they create safety hazards in some instances, right, such as fires. And finally, they are not clean. So some of the challenges of the utilities can also be attributed to the business model, right? There is no opportunity for free market forces to improve the efficiency of the system. I believe that distributed solar and storage in a deregulated market is the perfect solution to solve all the above problems. Distributed solar and storage in a deregulated market. However, I'm also very pragmatic about things. Deregulation will take time. However, we can start returning every home into a completely self-reliant microgrid. That's the starting point. And interestingly, there's been a confluence of events that have kind of spurred a lot of interest in resiliency, right? In addition to climate change issues, COVID has also driven the need for independence and resiliency, including for energy. There's a prevailing sense that we really cannot rely on the government to provide us with security, particularly energy security. And we need to be in control of our own destiny. This is kind of further driving the demand for self-reliance. So imagine a world where every home with solar and storage is completely self-reliant microgrid. Imagine a world where utilities have retooled their business model and lease out their poles and wires to move electrons. Like the deregulation that happened in the telecommunications industry, which is, I have some background there. What that means is that not only can individual homes with solar and storage form their own microgrids, but you can also form what are called pools of microgrids. There are some places in Europe and in Australia where we are seeing seeds of this development, but we still have a long way to go. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. We need to get going fast, right? The other big problem in my mind is that there are 2 billion people in this world that live in energy poverty. We have to find a technological solution to alleviate this problem. Forget it. It's just going to be impossible for governments to fund infrastructure development to bring centralized generation, transmission, distribution, poles and wires to people who live in remote areas and villages, whether that's in India, Africa, China, wherever, right? We actually can learn from other technology players, right? Think about what happened with the wireless industry. Most remote villages do not have landlines, right? And they got leapfrogged by cell towers and mobile phones. The exact same thing will happen with energy. Governments will not be investing in like I said, building out centralized generation plants and transmission networks. Instead, what I believe will happen is microgrids in every village, right? Solar and storage. And over time, it could very well move where every home in every village is its own microgrid. And there's, again, a pool of microgrids. That's a very highly resilient, clean, cost-effective, and safe solution. And I believe that this is what I mean when I say you're kind of reinventing the grid kind of from the inside out, right? So in conclusion, and I really believe very strongly in this, we have a moral responsibility to ensure that no human on earth lives in energy poverty. We also have a moral responsibility to leave this planet to the next generation healthier than how we inherited it. I owe it to my 10-year-old daughter and others. We have the technology, and if we have the will for it, we absolutely can change the world. Thank you. So,
Thank you so much, Raghu, for
questions.
your speech. I really appreciate you sharing your journey with Enphase Energy. Actually, we have two questions coming from our audiences. And the first question is, they are wondering if you have any advice for young graduates who want to work in the clean energy field. The second question
Yeah,
is,
go
what
ahead.
do you think about FERC recent news? FERC order opens up wholesale grid market to distributed energy resources.
Yeah, so yesterday's news, the FERC news was fantastic. It's a build up to a previous previous event where there is a clear recognition that that distributed energy is here to stay, and will start playing a bigger and bigger role in how it in supporting and creating the right infrastructure. This is part of a key part of the reinvention of the grid from the inside out. First, before we start thinking about wholesale markets, I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that the self-reliance, the resiliency matter is taken care of and addressed in its entirety within a home. And yes, while solar and storage are going to be the starting point for it, I think there will be other energy resources and load management in general. Managing the entire infrastructure of your home, energy infrastructure of your home, is going to become, it's going to be the first and foremost element of solving the energy problem in my view. In regards to young graduates, here's what I say. Hey, you're the ones who are going to be there to change the world, and the way you do it is work at a startup. Go work at a startup. Go start your own companies. I always tell young people who join Enphase, I said, I really believe my greatest achievement will not be Enphase. It will be when somebody who worked at Enphase, learned a lot from Enphase, goes off and starts their own company. And of course, the win would be if they started in clean tech. So for a young person, you got to make those big, bold decisions and not look back and go work at a startup. It's a great place to really learn and start your own company.
Thank you so much. I think your words are really inspiring to all of the young people attending today's conference, and also thank you so much for expanding like your view on the recent news. So we would like to invite the next speaker, um, Giles Hutchins, to speak on his journey. So Giles is a chair at the Future Fit Leadership Academy, founder
One second.
founder of Leadership Immersions, and
Oh,
co-founder
one second,
of.
Janice.
Okay.
One second, Janice. We actually still have some questions for Raghu.
Oh,
So yeah, his time is not up yet.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. We have another audience asking question. So the question
Okay.
is regarding the energy access, serving bottom of the pyramid energy customers. Any thoughts to address the lag in economic development and energy demand and ability WTP when impoverished customers are connected to electricity?
It's a great question, right? I think um, you cannot disassociate basic energy requirements and economic development. And I think, even a simple thing as a light bulb and being able to power the light bulb is empowering. That's what, I obviously have not experienced that personally, but that's what I hear. The willingness to pay and the ability, I think there are many mechanisms today available that addresses that particular issue, right? There are number of, we have partnered with a company in Africa that's doing pay-as-you-go programs, and they basically lease out the equipment and the solar and batteries, and they've seen pretty good success, so meaningful success. The one thing that I do have a pet peeve about is, and I've said this before as well, is that don't, just because they live in energy poverty doesn't mean they're not entitled to the greatest technology, right? We go off and do some archaic DC technologies, etc., and knowing that those are, I hate to use the word dead end technologies. Instead, they should have the same access and should have the same benefits of the latest, greatest, cutting edge technology, because part of making something available to the masses is these technologies are affordable now. And it just, there is no other technology that makes more sense than having solar and a little bit of energy storage to go with it. And it can be very empowering, and it really, really does transform lives. And today there are a lot of, like I said, financial tools and mechanisms available to help people avail themselves of this kind of technology.
Okay, we also have a new question coming. What is your view for the DER development in the developing countries, where it be the solution for people who do not have electricity access now?
Absolutely, and as I mentioned in my speech, in my talk as well, I think the more traditional way of centralized generation, transmission, distribution is not going to happen. That old stuff will get leapfrogged with distributed energy resources. And DERs in this particular instance are going to be either, imagine a microgrid, you've got maybe 20 kilowatts of solar, maybe another 20, 30 kilowatt hours, or maybe even 100 kilowatt hours of energy storage. Maybe there is a backup, generation resource that can ride through, maybe wind, for example, etc. And I think you're going to see these microgrids forming in all of these locations. And these microgrids will service that local village or village as an example. That'll be the starting point. But very soon, what I believe is going to happen is even that's going to get broken up into true DERs, where every home will have its own self-reliant system. And those systems will all be connected, of course, and there will be energy exchange taking place between the homes. But I really believe that that DER will completely leapfrog traditional generation and delivery mechanisms for people in developing countries as well.
Great. Also, we have a new question. What's the challenge for the developing DER in the underdeveloped countries versus developed countries? What's your viewpoint on that?
Challenges. I think in case of developed countries, we tend to fight more regulations today, right? DER, there is a traditional, the traditional grid and is present, and there's a traditional way of doing things, and you're trying to fight these traditions. And, eventually they come around and they see that DERs are the way to go. They have better performance, they have better reliability, they're less expensive. So absolutely, it's the way to go. But those are the challenges that we see here today in a place like US. In the underdeveloped, in developing countries, on the other hand, I think you do have access issues, you do have financing issues. But I think it's arguably a little bit simpler to do it there once the mechanics of it have been worked out. And like I said, even in a place like Africa, we've been working with some partners who are doing pay-as-you-go type financing, and it's been working extremely well, and they've been quite successful at it.
Okay. Jen is curious, like, what can be a good startup idea in the renewable energy field?
Uh,
I know it's a really challenging one.
yeah, I think, I cannot give you anything directly right now, but you just have to have just imagination, just imagine it, right? You can imagine it and go solve it. I'm sure there is better, we have a certain way of doing power conversion. I'm sure there's a better power conversion technology available out there. I'm sure storage, right? Batteries, there's incredible amount of development taking place right now. I'm sure there's a better way to do energy storage. Think about load and load management and efficient appliances. I'm sure there is multiple things that can be done in that arena. Even in the arena in developed countries where you're now having a proliferation of DERs, coordination of DERs is going to become really important. So what are the techniques that you can use to coordinate these DERs? There are innumerable areas where you can go attack, but just don't limit your imagination. That's all I can say.
We also have two more questions. One question is actually from computer science students. So they're also curious about the renewable energy field, and also they want to ask what further studies one can do in an environmental field for a computer science student.
Yeah, I think what's happening is data is becoming really, really important. So if you look at, at Enphase, we have 1.2 million homes. All those homes send data back to us. They send data on how the solar is doing. They send data about how the inverters are doing. They send data to us on how the panels are doing, the batteries are doing. They send data back to us on about how the grid is doing. We probably know more about what's going on in the grid than the utility does, right? So what does all that data mean? The data means that you can now you can analyze all of that data, generate information about further improving either the efficiency of your solar system or the usage of your energy, of your battery system, right? And or make recommendations to the homeowner on, hey, maybe your appliances could be upgraded from natural gas to electric or for a certain payback period. So there's a lot of data science that can be techniques that can be utilized. Everybody is talking about forecasting and artificial intelligence and machine learning, etc. But there is data now. There is a tremendous amount of data on on energy, on the energy footprint of a home. And the beauty is that the energy footprint of a home, of one home, is wildly different from somebody else's home. People's, footprints are very, very different. So building out generalized models and then applying them to specific individual homes is a very, very interesting problem in my mind to solve. So I think there's that's another good area of from the standpoint of starting a new company or thinking about it entrepreneurially, right? So I see one more. Do you have any insights on how building industry collaborates with energy storage systems like rooftop solar plus storage? Yeah, it's very, very close collaboration, right? If you look at energy efficiency, we have to attack this problem at multiple levels, right? It's not just about, oh, I'm going to slap on the biggest solar system out there. I'm going to slap on the biggest storage system out there. No, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't we start with energy efficiency? That's where the building industry comes in, collaborates. They've done some work on the appliance side with Energy Star. We have done our part in with solar and storage, and there are lead buildings. But I think in general, there's still a lot of opportunity to innovate just in the building, in the building industry itself. And I think that drives energy efficiency, more efficient usage of energy. And then of course you add solar plus storage or in load management, etc. So I think it's ripe for, it's great collaboration. You can't have one without the other in my mind.
Great. We are running out of time. First, I would like to thank you, Raghu, for answering so many questions for our young professionals and also sharing your journey with the Enphase Energy. We are really honored to have you here and really looking forward to inviting you to the later events that our organization has. Thank you so much, Raghu.
Thank you very much, and good luck and enjoy the rest of the day.
Great. Have a good day too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.